Anyway, what? Kilgore raised the language. Tell her to hold up. Something. D2B or whatever. So, he said that's actually more than just a problem. Yeah. Like BR cause was three keywords. Alright. And so we did that with form and phase.
You're right in the crosshairs. Nope. Sorry.
I got another meeting to go to. No, actually,
I did, didn't I?
Greetings, young fella.
So that was the end of it. It was the Marine Resources Commission, and they weren't terribly happy with it.
Yeah, they didn't like it either.
Yeah. So that's the subaqueous lands and the dredging.
Right. It's
Okay.
almost imminent. It's almost imminent.
That's it. Okay, that's 23 and.
He's looking around. He's like, "Oh, up there."
nobody likes me. I got an amendment.
Welcome everybody to Agricultural Subcommittee number 1. So the first one up is Delegate Rush. This is House Bill 2190. We heard your bill last time, and I believe we got referred back to subcommittee for maybe another little issue or something. So we adopted an amendment last time. Is that amendment still you want to stay? Or
I believe there's a new amendment that can be reported.
Do we need to get rid of the amendment you had?
That's what we're asking.
Mr. Chairman, I believe we can just lay this one right on top of the other one.
Yes.
It's the same language.
Same language. Okay.
So this amendment on House Bill 2190 would go on line 78. After the words "of the," we would strike disbursements from the fund for a fiscal year, or whatever the language was that we amended it to last time. And we would insert in its place available balance from the taxable portion of the fund as of July 1, 2019.
Mr. Chairman, to explain that, there are actually two portions of the fund. One is taxable and one is not taxable. This allows the not taxable has been monetized and it's not allowed due to bond regulations to do what my bill would intend to do. So we switched it to just be very clear that's the part that this is allowed.
Okay, so Scott, we just need to adopt this amendment, and that's the only measure we'll need to do. Yes, sir. Get in that posture. Okay.
Would that be a line amendment or is it a substitute?
It's a line.
It is a line amendment. Then I look at line amendment.
Okay, so have a second. Any discussion? Okay, the bill is amended as before us. Delegate Rush.
Mr. Chairman, most members of the subcommittee have heard this before. The Tobacco Commission, this bill allows the Tobacco Commission to contract with someone it allows, it doesn't require, to contract with a experienced venture capitalist to bring in venture capital into the tobacco region. And my hope is, like much of everyone on the Tobacco Commission, is that this spurs economic development. I look at the chairman's his district's proximity to Raleigh-Durham. Raleigh-Durham has a big high-tech base. This venture capital could lure some of that to Danville. I represent Floyd County. Obviously, Virginia Tech's 30 miles away from there. We've got the Corporate Research Center. We've got very innovative people in Blacksburg. So my hope is that those folks could locate in Floyd County and throughout the Southwest Virginia and South Side.
Speak to the bill.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now.
So whenever we see, as a member of the Tobacco Commission, as long with anytime we see a bill about the Tobacco Commission, we always are going that somebody's trying to pick our pocket. And so trust this guy?
I trust you and Nick.
So the first thing I did when I first saw this is I said, I trust this guy most of the time. So I sent this to Evan Feynman, who is the head of the paid person who is head of, at the governor's, works for the governor, and head of the Tobacco Commission. I said, is this a good bill or a bad bill? He came back to us and said that he supports this idea, thinks this would be a good program for the Tobacco Commission as we try to bring prosperity back to Tobacco Commission footprint.
Okay, any other comments? Okay. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this motion? Okay, you're in favor?
The amendment, yes, we
Yes, ma'am.
suggested the amendment because the original bill we thought had problems with the way the language was written, that it would allow the commission, Tobacco Commission, to go into tax exempt bonds, which is not allowed under the agreement the commission has with bondholders. And there's restrictions on how tax exempt proceeds can be used. So to the extent that committee adopts this amendment, we won't have that concern.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here to speak against this measure? Okay, we've got a little housekeeping measure to go through. Now, first of all, we will have to strike that other amendment, so can you explain that to us? We had a previous amendment that we adopted that I believe we'll want to strike, put this in the proper posture.
We'll need to move, having voted on the prevailing side, whereby we adopted the amendment.
Okay.
I move that we reconsider the vote, whereby we adopted that
I second that
amendment.
motion.
All in favor of that, say aye. Okay, now,
We have to.
Well, or the patron has leave to withdraw the previous amendment.
you will just.
Okay. Or,
Yeah, just make.
well, I move that we strike the previous amendment.
Okay.
It's just a
Is there one, do I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor of striking the
Aye.
first amendment? Aye. Okay, now we'll put this amendment.
Move the adoption of the amendment presented by the patron
Right.
this evening.
Second on that?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now the bill's in proper posture, and if you want to, the proper motion would be to report and to refer to a pros.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all, please cast your vote. Okay, by a vote of 8-0, the measure, goes to full committee.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, next we'll hear Chairman Marshall, House Bill 1839.
Yes, 1839. So we have another. That's it. So, Scott, what version is this?
About, number 5, I don't know.
We killed 6 trees with
Mr. Chairman, does Hep make paper too?
If anybody wants to.
And extra copies.
So let me tell you while we are here,
Yeah, adopt substitute. I move the substitute.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion, okay, all in favor of substitute, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, substitute for.
so thank you, and let me tell you how we're here. So I have, in my part of the state, tobacco was king, not quite king anymore as it was. And so there's a processor in my area who called me back in the fall and was looking for ways to grow hemp. This was before the federal farm bill passed, and so, but right on the Virginia line, one of the problems that we're having is that North Carolina and really Kentucky is really far ahead of us as far as commercial hemp. So one of the things we wanted to do with this bill, one of the goals is to try to make sure that Virginia's we get our regs and code ready so that we can grow hemp and process hemp. So we convened a meeting this past December, and we had 2 people in the front row that was there, and Delegate Edmonds was there, and so we and also Scott was there, and we went through almost line by line with the goal of being that we wanted to make sure that there was no code or any regs as far as to try to help us to alleviate those so we could go ahead and start in the hemp business. Now, one of the things we wanted to do is to make sure that Virginia can be the easiest state to grow, process, and manufacture hemp. And so this model right here is really based on the tobacco model that was around for the way from the grower to the processor to the person who made the product of tobacco. It's kind of based on that idea. But the reason we have an emergency clause in here is that we want to make sure that this bill gets passed, and so this guy right here can start, putting seeds in the ground when it gets warm. We don't have to wait till July. If we wait till July with the regular bill, then we lost a season. So that's kind of in a nutshell that's what it's doing. It's you can see that there are probably 47 pages of this. It's not all of your language, but I would like to maybe ask our two guests here to author to maybe speak to the bill and tell us about what we're doing here.
Okay, who's here to speak in favor of the bill? Yep. Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm Robert Mills. I'm from Pennsylvania County. I'm representing Briarview Farms and Virginia Farm Bureau. I'm a licensed hemp producer from Pennsylvania County. I grew my first hemp crop last year in conjunction with Virginia Tech and Titan Biosciences out of Danville, Virginia. I have re-upped my license for 2019. We're very, very fortunate that Delegate Marshall's bill comes and meets what we need to be able to produce, not only produce the product, but have it manufactured. Unfortunately, we have companies that want to do business in Virginia right now, and especially in our area where manufacturing has somewhat left the area, and we are looking for places of employment. To have the hemp production processors in those areas is not only important to us as growers, but it's important to the economics of our area and providing jobs and that economic stability. So I would encourage you all to support this. I was privileged to be part of working through this process, and that day that we met and the time that we've spent together, we had all those people who needed to be at the table to talk about these issues, to make sure that we covered the bases. That it protected the permitting process so that we know where the hemp was located. It puts us through a registration process so that the Virginia Department of Agriculture knows where it's at, that the product will be tested, and the processor being there to express what they need to be able to locate in those areas, because without the processors, you're not going to have the farmers. Without the farmers, you're not going to have the processors. So it's very, very important for us, and I would appreciate your consideration on this bill. Thank you very much.
I'm going to ask a question real quick. We're going to hear everybody, but let me have a show of hands of who opposes this bill. Anybody see any hands? Good. Okay, don't talk yourself out of this thing. Yes, sir.
Hey, my name is Ben Clark, and I support Marshall's bill with no amendments. I'm a hemp grower this year. I was third to stay registered, and I got to be honest with you, there's a few things in this bill that really help growers. The 0.6 limit is one of them. I got clones from Kentucky, and everything I did it the right way, and it was difficult to stay under the 0.3. So I support this bill with no amendments, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, Kyle Shreve, on behalf of the Virginia Agribusiness Council, we also support the bill and ask you do the same. Thank you.
Chairman, I'm T.W. Taylor. I'm a pharmacist. I own 2 drugstores in Williamsburg, Virginia. I speak on the subject all day, every day. To give you an example, I got this in the mail today. They're saying mass meat retailers is the most exciting product for 2019. And I can tell you, I speak all the time. I give lots of lectures on everything from brain health to gut health. I have 15, 30 people there. I do a seminar on CBD. I have 200 people there, and the average age is probably 70. And so I'm really for this. We got to get it straight so we can do some processes. At Eastern Virginia Medical Center, we have a double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled study ready to go. It's already been through the design phase, and one of the companies is going to fund it for $250 million. And the United States federal government has it patented under HHS as a neuroprotectant. And so we really need this to pass, and so our people can get it legally. And matter of fact, get good quality, so make sure it's quality in there that we are tested before people ever get on the market to us. Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Very quickly, my name is Peggy Sneed. I'm here representing both pharmacists and physicians who have dealt with this issue. It clarifies and makes Virginia laws, the Commonwealth laws, completely consistent with the Farm Bills 2014 and 18, and it provides the regulation to make sure that the product is the product that they need to get, not something that they're gonna buy off the internet that isn't regulated at all.
Thank you. Chairman Marshall, you want to wrap up, or they say it all?
You know, I heard in salesmanship 101, when you got the order, shut up.
Well, Chairman,
I'm not saying anything.
just two questions on the substitute. First, and I'm sure a lawyer can explain it to me, on line 109 and 196, we've got the same term. I've never seen a culpable mental state greater than negligence.
What line?
Line 109 and line 196, page 5, first. What is a culpable state of mental state greater than negligence?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if I can define it on the spur of the moment, but this is in the context of law enforcement and criminal law, and I would say it is anything in the category of negligence.
Somehow I meant to do this, it wasn't a mistake.
Delegate Marshall, I think I can answer that question.
Wait a minute.
Delegate Marshall.
I'm
He's
sorry.
He just insulted.
Y'all guys look alike.
Oh.
All of you are rich and famous.
Did you like being chairman?
I said rich and famous. No, if we go forward, the proper motion is gonna have to be to refer to courts.
Okay.
So.
Oh, that changes
you're
everything.
eager for that.
I apologize.
That changes
That's-
everything.
Why is that? Oh.
So-
And I did have then a further question, Mr.
Yes.
Legal. I was curious, Chairman Marshall, in the enactment clauses, we've got one report due September 1st, the other due December 1st. Why the
Make it the same.
separation?
What would make the same?
That was kind of my thoughts, combine 3 and 4. Or at least make the dates the same for the department.
Which would you prefer?
I think it typically is gonna take them to December.
All right, so.
Line 1270,
Change it to
strike
December.
September and insert December.
So,
Okay.
December 1.
Yeah, just to conform with line 1273, it's still December 1.
Okay, so, did everyone look at 1270, we're just talking about, the dates. So they wanna strike September and enter December. Can I have that as a motion?
So moved.
Second? Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So now we have to.
Move to
inform-
report and refer to courts.
I second it.
Okay. Any second, any discussion? All in just, please cast your vote.
Marshall plan.
Marshall Plan.
Self-funded.
Comedy's hard. Comedy's hard.
Okay, by a vote of 9-0, the measure is reported to full committee with the recommendation to courts. Next, do we have any other delegates in here?
So, Mr. Chair, so if I look down the list, Freitas's bill, Freitas 2346, asked my bill, his bill to be incorporated into 1839, and it was. And then also 2649, Hogan's bill, she asked for that bill to be incorporated into 1839.
So that language was incorporated. Typically, we just lay on the table.
Exactly, exactly. So, let's take up House Bill 2346.
Move to lay on the table.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? There's no discussion. Okay, please cast your vote. By a vote of 9-0, that bill goes on the table. Next bill we'll take up is House Bill 2649. We have a motion. Second. To lay House Bill 2649. Delegate Pogge? What we're doing right now, just since you walked in, is we passed Chairman Marshall's bill, and his is all encompassing, so we
Hemp.
just, the hemp bill, we just laid, Delegate Freitas is on the table, there's a motion to lay your bill on the table. Just wanted to let you know that, so you get to sit
I'm
down
good
long
with
enough to
that.
see your
I'll
bill
sign
laid
it
on the
on.
table.
She's got nothing.
She's got nothing.
Okay, excuse me, please cast your vote. Vote of 9-0, that bill's laid on the table also. Okay, and Delegate Cody, House Bill 2256.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What my bill does is basically would allow that, any animal remedy that contains as an ingredient any part of the cannabis plant or any product made from any part of the cannabis plant. Mainly, what we're talking about is, hemp products and hemp parts and, CBD and hemp protein powder. Anything that comes from the hemp plant that is not a controlled substance, that those items will be allowed to be in, products for pets. There are a lot of people who like to, give their pets hemp products, protein, CBD oil. So we wanna make sure now that, there's been so much progress with the, industrial hemp, that these products are, available to the public. They are already in the stores, and we wanna make sure that, that is allowed to continue.
Any questions, Adrian, for the committee this time? Is there anybody here to speak in favor of this measure?
Hello, I'm Amanda Wilborn. I'm the owner of a pet store in Williamsburg, Virginia, the Nautical Dog. I wrote up a short thing about what we've been dealing with. I've been in business for over 12 years. My store specializes in holistic pet food, supplements, and all-natural products. Pet parents have caught on that CBD is a safe and effective way to treat many illnesses with virtually no side effects, unlike prescriptions that are prescribed frequently. CBD cannot make your pet high as it is non-psychoactive and is incapable of causing an overdose. The majority of customers seek out CBD to help their pets with anxiety, seizures, pain management, inflammation, and cancer. I myself have had a very sick cat with lymphoma cancer, and CBD helped his pain and the slowdown of the growth of his cancer. I have many customers who say it has made a complete turnaround for their pets, whether it be dogs who are terrified of thunder or senior pets who are so arthritic they can no longer walk up steps. Unfortunately, the stop sale by the Virginia Department of Agriculture is forcing consumers to purchase it online. This stop sale is not keeping it out of the hands of Virginians or stopping them from seeking it elsewhere. This is not only hurting myself as a small business owner, but is also taking away from Virginia tax dollars. After reaching out to 2 of my vendors, it is estimated that they shipped over $65,000 worth of CBD products into the state of Virginia with 0 tax dollars collected in just a few weeks. That is a very small number in the big picture. There are many manufacturers of CBD and many websites that sell it online. I would venture to say that hundreds of thousands of dollars are spent on CBD products every month for pets in the state of Virginia, and now the majority of pet parents are purchasing it online due to the Virginia law. Once again, this is a direct impact on many small businesses like myself, as well as the state of Virginia losing sales tax. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I hope that something moves forward with this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other proponents that wish to speak? Is anyone here opposed to this measure? Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. Susan Seward with the Virginia Veterinary Medical Association. And I don't know if anybody from VDAX is here, but I have talked to them, and the issue is the distributors are distributing this illegally into Virginia because, as I understand it, unless we have legalized this product this session that I'm unaware of, any piece of the cannabis plant, is not legal here in Virginia. So I think the issue of enforcement by VDAX is the lesser question. I think the bigger question is cannabis is still a Schedule I drug, has been since 1970, and any piece of that in Virginia is not a legal drug. The second issue is, I think the Virginia Veterinary Medical Association understands there is a lot of research going on in this area relative to pet pharmaceuticals and derivatives of cannabis, CBD, et cetera. But right now, there is no FDA-approved drug, there's no FDA-approved therapy. The information, I think, is anecdotal, and until we have some serious studies that prove both the science and the efficacy, we are erring on the side of caution and are encouraging and supporting research, but at this time, we simply feel it's premature. So, thank you.
Any questions? Thank you. Anyone else here to speak to this measure? Okay. Togi?
I'd like to comment.
Okay.
I wasn't gonna comment until I heard that, but hemp is taken off Schedule 1 as far as federally with the Farm Bill. And it's a new commodity crop as well as a miracle crop of over 25,000 uses. And it's not no drug, it's a proven herb. It's Mother Nature's natural growing healing cannabis plants, and we the farmers need it. Virginia, it was the first crop for Virginia. We used to pay taxes in Virginia with the crop as well. And so it has proved itself very worthy, and you're not gonna get high on it. You can eat it, you can drink it, you can clothe you can house it with, what they say, not concrete, but hempcrete, and many other products. And so it just needs to be legalized. Virginia needs to catch up because like right now the products, hemp, which they import over 800 million yearly, is coming from like Canada and other countries when we could grow it and our farmers need it. So I gotta speak up for the farmers, and this is not no drug. So it doesn't need any drug classification. Medicine.
Let me ask Scott. Scott,
Thank you.
The bill that I'm reading says any animal remedy that contains as an ingredient any part of the cannabis plant. So is cannabis marijuana and hemp?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Mr. Chairman, a question for staff. If we were to offer an amendment on line 19, after cannabis plant and include the language that is not a controlled substance, would that satisfy the concerns of the opposition?
Let me ask you, could we do that?
We could do that.
Yes, sir, we could do that. Mr. Chairman? Yes, sir.
As an alternative thought, what would the effect be if we were to strike the word cannabis and insert the word hemp? My point is that.
You have recommendations?
Yes, I guess in furtherance.
Yes, sir.
You can't get CBD oil without going through a pharmacist. And that process has just begun. So this would be setting in place a means whereby individuals can procure it through a pet shop and circumvent the system we've set up for humans.
Delegate Morphew, did you want to add to it? Did you have something to add to that, or you want to hold on? Okay. Delegate Rodman, you were next.
Mr. Chairman, unless we had this go through veterinarians, I mean, it would have to go through some.
But we've set up 4 licensed stations for pharmacies to handle it in Virginia. You have to get a special license to pharmacy.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's our issue again.
Okay.
But just in terms of clarifying Delegate Orrock's suggested language, based on the Delegate Marshall's bill, we define industrial hemp in his bill, we define hemp product, but hemp by itself is not a defined term, at least so far. So to the extent that we can be narrow about what we're trying to do, it's industrial hemp and hemp products.
Delegate Orrock, he'll.
Well, I guess my thought, we don't have to define everything, and cannabis covers both. If you use hemp, then you go with the dictionary definition, which would be a subset of the cannabis family. It would clearly be only the industrial hemp plant.
Mr. Chair, can I interject something? This is directly from a letter I received from VDAX. The Federal Controlled Substance Act's definition of marijuana provides that certain parts of the cannabis plant are not controlled substances. Hemp parts, hemp fiber, hemp stalks, hemp protein powder, hemp seed oil, hemp seed powder, and non-viable hemp seed are among those cannabis-derived products that are not controlled substances.
Like you said, the magic
that's the
word,
phrase we want.
not controlled.
They're not controlled.
In fact,
Also,
Delegate Moorfield,
in my
I think,
discussions with
you-
VDAX, they have indicated
sure that we're covering all fronts. If you look on line 18, there's language that says any part of the cannabis plant or any product made from a part of the cannabis plant. So I think to be accurate, we'd have to add the not controlled product language on both times of the reference of cannabis plant. So line 18 and 19.
Scott, is that belt and suspenders? Or
If you would have to, otherwise one of them is legal, one is illegal.
On the front end before both of them, so.
Yes, that's how it works.
Mr. Chairman, we could do that after cannabis plant, we could say that is not a controlled substance, and then after product, we could say that is not a controlled substance.
You agreeable? Okay, does the committee know what the amendment says? Not a controlled substance in both parts of it, with before and after the or. Okay? And you made that as a motion?
Yes.
Do I have a second? Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the bill as amended is before us. Is there any discussion within the committee? Okay,
The report as amended?
Will. Did you second it?
Oh, second.
That's what I thought you said. We have a motion and a second to report the bill as amended. Okay, any discussion? Please cast your vote. Okay, by a vote of 8-0, the measure goes to full approval.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Let's see. I thought I saw, there he is.
Yes, sir.
House Bill 2745. Is it in its original form?
It is not, I have a
Okay.
amendment in the nature of a substitute. That's a great improvement to the bill.
Sure. Would y'all like to get the substitute for us?
Move the subject, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? In favor of the substitute, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, substitute before us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. The operative language there starts on line 46 through 52, dealing with dangerous dogs. We just want to clarify that the courts have the ability to defer adjudications in a dangerous dog case without a finding of dangerous dogs. It also sets forth conditions in which the owner can, if they violate, then you go back to the dangerous dog requirements and conditions. Or you can, if you complete it, then you allow for a dismissal of the dangerous dog finding. And so this just clarifies it. We've noticed that there's some jurisdictions where this is not allowed, this deferred adjudication. And so we just wanted to clarify in the code that that is something that's allowed.
Okay, so if a dog is declared a dangerous dog by court, and then after a certain time, are you wanting to take that dog off the list?
Well, let me see, Heidi, do you want? Yeah, that's the part that came out.
So it's still on the dangerous dog list, okay? And what was the other part that came out after a couple of years? That was the part that came out.
That was the part that came out. That was-
Okay,
yeah.
so if it's a dangerous dog and they go to court and the judge defers to things, okay, I'm gonna ask a question of my attorney here. When we interview people, candidates for judges around here, there's a legal term. It's called, what is it, deferred dispensation?
Disposition.
Deferred disposition. And I talked to chairman of courts today about this bill, and he said, you're offering protections to dogs that humans don't have. I mean, honestly, that's what he said, so, Mr. Counsel, I was kind of asking you that same question.
That might be a fair way to characterize it, Mr. Chairman. But the whole setup for dogs is not the same as humans. And when the dog is found dangerous, for example, after that, it's the human owner who can commit the violations by failing to keep the dog in a
is apples and oranges?
It is apples and oranges.
Okay. Any questions of the patron for the committee this time?
Mr.
Yes, sir.
So my understanding is, the reason why this, bill is in front of us is because some courts currently are exercising this, thinking that they have the legal authority to do so. Other courts are not, because they don't see the language in the code. My jurisdiction happens to be one that doesn't, allow this, this process, because they don't believe they have the authority. And of course, a county as large as Fairfax County, you have a lot of dogs, including some that are dangerous. And so for us, it's just a matter of us making sure that our courts have the jurisdiction that they need. So I think, is that
That's correct.
the intent?
That's correct, thank you. Let me, see, is there, anyone here who'd like to speak in favor of this motion? Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, my name is Heidi Meinzer. I'm here on behalf of the Virginia Federation of Humane Societies. Also, Mr. Gray has authorized me to say that the HSUS is in favor of this as well. I've tried many dangerous dog cases, including in Fairfax, and as Delegate Keene says, I walked into court in Fairfax one day and asked for this, and the animal control officer and the prosecutor said, "Why would we do this?" And I said, "Because I may walk in and win, and that's what we'll have no." And in fact, that's what happened. I walked in, I won, and the court had no power at that point over that dog for a year or two. Fortunately, it was a very responsible person, so the community is safe. But this gives a tool in those less egregious cases. Like I said, I think it evens the playing field for courts who are doing it, courts who aren't doing it. It will make it clear that in fact this is appropriate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Captain William Tidings, Spotsylvania Animal Control, Captain of the Sheriff's Office, President of Virginia Animal Control Association. We support this bill as amended, and our courts is one of the ones that have deferred. So like they said earlier, some are doing it anyway, whether they can or not. Thank you.
I'm Switzerland, so do you want to hear from me now, or?
Hold on a second. Is there anyone else here that's in favor of this measure wishes to speak? Okay, anyone that's in opposition?
I'm Switzerland.
Okay.
My name's
Okay.
Sharon Adams. I'm representing the Virginia Alliance for Animal Shelters. I first want to thank the delegate very much for listening to our members and amending this bill. It's wonderful. And on that basis, we are not opposing it. We do have some concerns, not about the deferral itself, but about the conditions that are referenced in the language. And as we told the committee, we will begin the process in the spring of reviewing the entire dangerous dog statute comprehensively. And I just want you to know that we may be back next year in this section of the bill, making some recommendations, but otherwise, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, yes, sir, Delegate Laura.
Mr. Chairman, I'm trying to, I embrace the concept. I'm just trying to find the legal parallels that exist elsewhere, because I'm not sure this is a better way to go. I guess my thought, it's not uncommon for a court in a traffic proceeding to, if you do thus and so, the case will be dismissed and placing certain conditions. That the intent is so that the animal doesn't get labeled a dangerous dog. And that we build in a parameter, keep contained for a while, do this, put him through behavior training, whatever. I guess a question, is there a better parallel under other parts of the code rather than a deferred disposition? Somebody.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
If you have an answer.
Delegate O'Rourke, there are code sections in the criminal procedure statute. 19.303.2 is deferred adjudication for property crimes, trespass, and the like. There's also one for domestic abuse and one for possession of marijuana that use this same concept of a deferred adjudication.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I can tell you this, I didn't like your bill when you had the other stuff in it, so it's certainly a whole lot better bill now, with this. Delegate Poindexter?
I'm just wondering, during this time period when nothing's going on, if this dog has figured out it did something wrong and has the capacity to decide, well, I'm not gonna do that anymore because I don't wanna be a dangerous dog.
You had asked a dog. I know what you're saying, but I think, Delegate Poindexter, is what Scott said earlier. It kind of goes against the person. you know, and I believe sometimes they may change the conditions of where the dog is and how it's handled, or maybe the owner or this
But
environment.
inside the dog, I mean, the dog is the dog.
Mr. Chairman, I have a motion.
Any other discussion? Well, we'll take your motion.
I'd move to report the substitute.
Okay, there's a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? Discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. By a vote of 5-2, the measure moves to full committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Now, what we're gonna do now is on House Bill 2658, Delegate Ranson talks about stationary blinds and public waters, minimum distance for shore. This is probably gonna be our last meeting, so she's not able to be here. I'm gonna ask Delegate Bloxham, he's not really gonna take a position, but he's gonna explain it. We're gonna hear from the proponents, we're gonna hear from the opponents, and we're gonna vote on this measure today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In essence, what this bill does, it's about duck lines and.
What?
Duck lines. Stick in the water.
Oh,
We have a substitute before us, okay? What the substitute does is it takes, it exempts the waters of Virginia Beach.
That's very
Yes. Represent Virginia Beach, but anyways, they thought they might curry some favor. I don't think it's gonna work. But Virginia Beach is solely located in Virginia Beach, and we're a little bit unique there, plus the North Angle River. So it, I believe, is exactly the same, except it exempts the waters of Virginia Beach. So could I have you wanna move the substitute?
Move the substitute.
Is there a second? Second on the substitute. Second. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor of the substitute, say aye. Okay, the substitute bill is before us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And for full disclosure, I need to double check to make sure that the East and Shore, both Acmac and Northampton, are exempt from all of this regulation.
I believe they are, Mr. Chairman, through a separate code section.
Okay, so just to be clear. All right. What this bill will do is right now you are allowed to put up a duck line in the water, in state water, state controlled body, which is low water mark and out. What this bill will do is basically say that you have to go 150 yards out, past low water. And basically just it'll move you farther from shore. So that's the gist of the bill.
Okay. Does anyone in the committee have any questions at this point? Okay. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this measure? Okay. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this measure? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, members of the committee. My name's Dwayne Adams. I'm coming to you today from 3 points of view. One, I'm a waterfront property owner, an avid waterfowler. I'm also Vice Chairman of the Louisa County Board of Supervisors, not that I'm speaking on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, but from an elected official point of view. I'm opposed to this bill along with hundreds and hundreds of waterfowlmen in Virginia for several reasons. Number one, waterways like the Potomac, the Rappahannock, the James are meant for public use and enjoyment. This bill gives adjacent property owners the ability to restrict the use of 150 yards of public water. I think the key there is public water. Placing stationary blinds 150 yards from shore would encourage, which this bill encourages, will create a boating and navigational hazard. Also, waterfowl hunting just ended yesterday. It happens in the wintertime when there are very few people in the water, where it's very cold. I'm also in the insurance business. The further you get people from shore, the more dangerous it is, the more opportunity for an accident or something bad to happen. Requiring 150 yards from shore would eliminate vast areas of the public waterways and limit the public's ability to hunt. The unintended consequence of this, I think, is just by rough estimate going to the Game and Inland Fisheries, which, by the way, this did not come from Game and Inland Fisheries. I don't know what their stand is, but it did not come from there. This will impact nearly 2,500 licensed blinds in the state of Virginia. There are many areas in the state where the public waters are less than 300 yards wide. So if this property owner implements that 150-yard rule and this property owner implements that 150-yard rule, you've basically taken that entire stretch of waterways off. This also is a discriminatory bill, because if I'm a deer hunter, I don't have to stay 150 yards from somebody's property line. I can't go on their property, but I can go up close to it. This says that now waterfowl hunters have to get permission from a property owner in the public waters, and I don't think that's a good idea. This bill would also disrupt the livelihood of guides who are currently running businesses in the state. Who's going to pay for them to move their blinds? We have a gentleman here I think is going to speak to that. And additionally, thousands of Virginians who for years have enjoyed the traditional waterfowl hunting in the public waters of Virginia would have their rights severely curtailed by this. In my opinion, this is just a solution looking for a problem, and I would encourage you to vote against it. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members, my name's Teddy Carr from Locust Grove, Virginia. I run an outfitter business on the Potomac River. It's fairly large, probably the largest in 3 or 4 states here, entertain about 600 people a year. I have 12 blinds that would be affected by this. I want to hone in on one blind, is the navigational hazard part of it. If I was forced to move, this is in the Occoquan, in the Belmont Bay region, if I was forced to move that blind 150 yards, you would have pleasure boats traveling the length of this room close to that line. So, to be honest with you, and blunt, and I am blunt, that's nonsensical. It doesn't have any practical common sense value to it whatsoever. The state would be setting up a situation that occurred July 1st, 2003, where a lady by the name of Mrs. Alantes was wanting to be a firefighter, went on a routine nighttime exercise with an approved firefighter who had the experience of running and operating a rescue boat on the river. They hit a piling on a VMRC marker that delineating Maryland and Virginia water. The piling was way offshore. Nobody I've boated that river for 30 years, and none of us could understand why they could not put that piling back closer to the shore. They hit that, and it killed them. You're just setting that same situation up for everybody else, but you're multiplying it by 2,000 or more, because that's what you're trying to do here. I want to speak a little bit about procedure. We register our blinds with the Department of Game and Inland Fisheries online. We cannot, when we register those online, we cannot make that change. They're locked in one place with GPS coordinates. So now you're upsetting the entire procedure process to be able to register a blind. That right there, come September 1st, will make every one of those blinds, if the system's not corrected, will make every one of those blinds illegal or non-compliant. That puts them back in the open market for everybody. I promise you, at 12:05 a.m., there will be 200 fistfights on the Potomac River. I can guarantee that. Now, from a business and personal standpoint, I got 12 of them. Somebody is going to pay me $5 grand a piece to move them. And I understand the treasurer was here a little while ago. So that's where I'm coming from a personal standpoint. It takes a lot of money to move them. You're going to have to extract poles. And I don't have the ones that are drove in with pilings. Those are $500 a piece. And I'm sure there's going to be a line of people wanting $500 to put in new poles for new blinds. It's a bad bill. It's going to inject a lot of chaos into the system, and I urge you to vote it down. Thank you for your time.
Okay, discussion within the committee. Oh, one
Mr.
more,
Chairman.
yes.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, John Colclaser, Congressional Sportsman Foundation. We're also opposed to the bill limits public access to public waters. It sets a bad precedent for sportsmen in general. You know, how many waterfalls in Virginia depend on access to public waters to hunt, and that's gonna effectively cut off, you know, hundreds and hundreds of hunters in addition to all the reasons the other guys enumerated. And I'd also point out that landowners already have prior rights to licensing and staking those blinds in front of their shorelines. If they properly follow the procedures every year, they can do that. And even if somebody comes in behind them and does sight a blind, they can nevertheless preempt them in the following year. So this bill is unneeded, and it's just a bad precedent, and it's gonna cut off a lot of access for sportsmen, so I'd ask you to reconsider.
Okay, committee, when he talks about the landowners' rights, that was my bill from a couple of years ago, where I actually gave preference to the property owners, where they had preference if they owned the land, so they had preference. The landowners have got the preference. Then, we've got issues, and I'm sure they do other places too, we put blinds in, the ice will shear them off. And what the law says is if you wanna retain your blind license, you have to get a blind license, you have to construct the blind by a certain time, and if the ice shears it up, you've gotta reconstruct that blind until my legislation a couple of years ago said you could come in there and put a pole up there and mark it with reflective tape, which some people don't do. But we've had some bad accidents from these that get, typically, when the wind blows in my neck of the woods, it's low tide, and that's when it shears them off, and then tide comes up. So you've got a great big pole like that sitting that far under there, it's gonna punch a hole in your boat. So, you know, for disclosure purposes, I don't particularly like this bill, and I'm gonna vote against it. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, I agree. Public waters are public waters, and I think that you had a good precedence there that you gave property owners, you know, first rights to have that blind, but, I mean, this is, you know, pretty sacred, for public water access, and push it out farther, it sounds very dangerous to me, so I'll be voting against this bill.
Any other discussion from the committee?
I'll make a motion on the table.
And there's already a motion, that's a second. Is, no discussion, please cast your vote.
Sorry.
By a vote of 8-0, the measure is laid on the table. Thank you. Now,
All right. Give your attention to Chairman Knight's bill 2364.
Okay. I have House Bill 2364, but I do have is this a substitute?
It's just a line amendment.
A line amendment.
Move the line amendment. Can we hear it? Can we hear it before we act on it?
I'll tell you what the line amendment
Chairman,
does.
it's gotta be perfect.
That's right. If you look under line 18, after activities, we'll of course unstrike the comma, we'll insert weddings. So we've got weddings in there, and then on line 20, after the activity, we'll strike the remainder of line 20 and 21. So basically, we're sticking that word wedding in there, we're striking everything that says agritourism activity, which includes service as a wedding venue not more than 12 times per calendar year, each such wedding involved not more than 250 guests. So that is the amendment.
Questions on the amendment? If not, we'll adopt it by general consensus.
All right.
Delegate Knight.
Mr. Chairman, what I'm trying to do here is we have agritourism, which you can read some of the activities, winery, ranch, and natural activities. We have agritourism. I'm from Virginia Beach and Chesapeake. We are trying to preserve our farmland down there. This farmland is very, very expensive. It has a lot of development pressures on there, so we're trying to tell the farmers, we're trying to let you make a little bit of money down here, corn, wheat, soybeans, horses, etc. But we have a fair amount of farm markets from place to place in there. The city of Virginia Beach has told me that they like this, and Chesapeake has told me they like it. So I wanted to take out, because I believe it's come to my attention in some places of the state, they don't want as many as 12 weddings, and some places want more than 12. Some people say we don't want as many as 250 guests, and some places say we want more than 250. So all I'm asking to put into code under agricultural tourism activity is put wedding in there. So if you have a farm stand, then the locality, you can say that it's legal. I can envision them saying, if they don't like it, you can only have one wedding a year and can't but 2 people show to it. Okay? Maybe three, the preacher, that's right. But they could also, if they didn't want to put a limit, they could not put a limit, or they could put a limit in there. So that's what my bill does.
All right. Questions of the patron? Mr. Chairman, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Are weddings recreational, entertainment, or educational?
Of course they are.
That's a very loaded question, I tell you that.
And the point of the question being,
I don't know what.
we're putting this in the context that this says allows members of the public to enter the farm for recreational, entertainment, or educational purposes. So we're now saying a wedding is one of those 3. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Any thoughts to be heard on House Bill 2364 is now amended? Yes, sir.
Hi, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Daniel Price. I have a farm up in Prince William County, Northern Virginia. It happens to be a very pretty spot of land. I get requests from time to time for people that want to be married there. And I'm all for love and marriage, and I think it's a great bill and should be passed. So I encourage you to support it. Thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Price? Thank you, sir. Others in support?
Hi, my name's Alexia. We own Rosin Farm in Albemarle County. Right now, we support adding the term weddings into the definition of agritourism. Right now in Albemarle County, if you have a bona fide ag operation and you approach them about what sort of events you're allowed to have, in writing they state that weddings are not considered usual and customary at Virginia agricultural operations and are therefore subject to special events regs in the county zoning ordinance, which means special use permits. However, in 2017, Virginia Tech released a list of the top 25 on-farm agritourism activities in Virginia, and weddings ranked 3rd, constituting 34.5% of all Virginia agritourism. It's time that our state definition fully reflected that.
Any questions, Alexa? Thank you, Ms. Yes,
I'm
sir.
Richard Fox with Roslyn Farm in Albemarle County. Again, thank you guys for bringing this up. I mean, this is something that has affected us personally. When I see this bill, especially with the amendments, I see it falling right in line with the Right to Farm Act, right in line with the Bonetta bill from a couple years ago. And the most important thing here, especially with these amendments, is you're still giving the localities some freedom. You're still giving them to figure out what do we need to do for the public safety. What do we need to do to handle impacts? Some localities are probably gonna make you do sound studies, all this stuff, and that's great. Because each locality knows for themselves what can and can't work for them and their current infrastructure. But at the end of the day, when you're looking at that agritourism definition, weddings definitely line right up in there. This is a process that, because of the lack of clarity here, it's cost us personally over $150,000 dealing with our locality. When come to find out, all we needed was a $52, $57 zoning clearance, and the various stuff that the county required. So again, thank you guys for bringing this up. Thank you guys for addressing this, and I think that this helps kind of close in some of the confusion that some localities may have after that Right to Farm Act was amended in 2014. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox.
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, Kyle Shreve, the Virginia Agribusiness Council. We do thank the patron for clarifying the law. We participated in a work group study on agritourism events all summer. We're not saying that this is the end all be all. We're going to need to continue discussing this, but we do believe that the law needs more clarity, and we appreciate the patron bringing it up.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Andrew Smith, Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. As introduced, we did have concerns with what was removed, and do appreciate the discussion we had with the patron, and we do support the agritourism operations being able to have activities like this. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good evening, I think, or
Yes,
good afternoon.
close enough.
Yes, I'm Janine Lawson. I represent the
Brinsfield District on the Prince William Board of County Supervisors, and Delegate Knight, it sounds like you and I share similar, or have similarities in our districts. My district has a lot of development pressures in the rural area, which we call the rural crescent, and I want to do everything I can to preserve our farmland. And in that, we have my constituent Dan Price, who has a beautiful barn, and I'm the one who's encouraged him, Dan, you need to turn this into a wedding venue. So I'm here to speak in favor of it, and I appreciate you bringing this forward, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lawson.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Ross Nair, Prince William Chamber of Commerce, for all the reasons you heard before, we support the bill.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in support? Are there those who have concerns or care to speak in opposition?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Phyllis Arico from the Virginia Association of Counties. We oppose this bill because we think that we support agricultural activities and those recreational, entertainment, and educational purposes that are directly related to the agricultural purposes of these properties. But adding weddings in here not only limits the liability of the property owner who's bringing all these people onto the property, it limits the ability of the local government to address the issues that are involved, whether it's zoning, the neighbors' enjoyment of their property. Most of these buildings do not meet the building code, and you're bringing a lot of people in there, and you're bringing beautiful decorations and lights and cooking facilities and all sorts of things, and you're setting up furniture in a building that may not have adequate ingress and egress, and you're adding a lot of issues that relate to the local government and things that I think that they need to address dealing with public safety. And I would say that a farm is a beautiful place to have a wedding, but it's also a beautiful place to have a concert venue and a race car track and any number of things. I think that the line is really moving in a way that I think is harmful for the localities. Thank you.
Bernie Caton with the Virginia Municipal League, and we have the same concerns as they who expressed concerns about whether or not this gives enough authority to local governments to regulate them in the way they should be.
Anyone else in opposition? Committee members, what is your pleasure?
Move to report. Second.
Moved and properly seconded to report House Bill 2364. No further discussion as amended. Any further discussion on the matter? Hearing none, members, record your vote on the motion to report as amended. All members voted care to be recorded. Bill is reported 5-3. Mr. Chairman, it's yours.
I think that's all we have in discussion.
That's proposed.